George, I returned to the Earth, but it was blown up. My sources say that Green Goblin and Mysterio teamed up and blew up the Earth, killing all the Spider-Men. But when I checked the universes, there are a couple left, but one is at the brink of extinction.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Let's get this tier list straight. I'm ready to set the record right on my albums. I know what I made, and I'm putting them in their rightful places.
Hell yeah, Kanye, let's go. This is going to be huge, trust me.
All right, first up, the College Dropout. I remember when this dropped, it was different. Kanye was doing something no one else was, and the whole album had heart. I'm giving it in a tier. It's not perfect, but it was revolutionary at the time. It put Kanye on the map.
What? A tier? That's a joke. The College Dropout is S tier, and if anyone says otherwise, they're just lying to themselves. Through the Wire, Jesus Walks. This is the album that made Kanye who he is today. There's no question. S tier.
Look, I get it. The College Dropout was a huge moment for hip-hop, but you can't say it's perfect. There are some filler tracks, and while it's influential, it's not quite the masterpiece some people make it out to be. I'm going with a tier, but it's a damn good album.
I'm glad we're starting here because this is the album that changed the game. You can't say it's anything less than S tier, period. I changed everything. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Late Registration is a masterpiece. Kanye took everything that worked on the College Dropout and made it better. The production, next level. The samples, incredible. Gold Digger is legendary. This is S tier for sure.
I'm with Trump here. This one's huge. It has some of Kanye's best production work, and Gold Digger is still one of the most iconic songs ever. But I'm not sure it surpasses the College Dropout. It's definitely an A tier album for me. There's some filler, but it's still fantastic.
S tier for Late Registration. Kanye hit a new level of mastery here. The production, the features, this is one of the best albums in hip-hop history.
You know what? I'll take it. Late Registration is S tier. I was at the top of my game on this one, and everyone else was just catching up. S tier, period.
Graduation is good, but I think it's a bit more mainstream. It's still solid, but it's not as groundbreaking as some of his earlier work. I'd give it in a tier.
S tier. Graduation was massive. Kanye's production was on fire, Stronger was everywhere, and he brought a whole new sound to the game. This is S tier.
Graduation is great, but it's not as innovative as his earlier albums. It's still a tier, though. But it's just not quite at the top.
Graduation is S tier. People were losing their minds over this. I took over with this album. S tier all day.
808s was a bold move. The auto-tune, the emotional vulnerability, it was new. But it's still not perfect. I'm going with a tier on this one.
S tier, no doubt. Kanye pioneered this sound. People weren't ready for it, but they're copying it now. S tier, hands down.
S tier. 808s was a revolutionary album. Kanye was ahead of his time, and now everyone's using auto-tune. It's a classic.
808s is S tier. I changed the fucking game with this one. You think I was just messing around? Nah, I was creating.
Fantasy is Kanye at his peak. The production, the collaborations, the vision, it's S tier. There's nothing else like it.
S tier. Fantasy is fucking legendary. Runaway Power, all of the lights, this is Kanye at his best. S tier.
S tier, obviously. Fantasy is a masterpiece. Kanye reached perfection on this one. It's untouchable.
Fantasy is S tier, no question. I told y'all, this was my magnum opus. S tier.
The Life of Pablo is a mess, but it's also got some brilliant moments. It's a bit all over the place, but I'm going with a tier because it's got some of the best tracks.
B tier, man. Pablo is all over the place. Some tracks are good, but there's a lot of filler. It's not consistent enough to be S tier.
I think a tier is fair. Pablo is messy, but it's still a great album. Some tracks are brilliant, but others are just still a tier.
Pablo is S tier, period. I'm tired of why all sleeping on this one. You hear the influence everywhere now. S tier.
Ye is short, and it feels like Kanye was working through some personal stuff. It's not his best, but it's still got some solid moments. B tier.
D tier. This album felt rushed as hell. It's all over the place, and it just doesn't hit the mark. I'm sorry, but you was weak.
B tier. it's a personal album, but it feels rushed and a bit unfinished. Still, there are some great moments.
Ye is S tier. I was raw, honest, and real. It's not about being polished, it's about being real with yourself. S tier, end of story.
Kids See Ghosts, I love the collaboration with Cutie. It's got heart, it's got soul, and it's definitely experimental. I'm putting it at a tier because it's great, but not quite top tier for me.
S tier, this is fucking fire. Kanye and Cudi were a perfect match. The album is emotional, experimental, and just incredible. It's S tier for sure.
S tier, Kids See Ghosts is a masterpiece. The synergy between Kanye and Cudi is unreal. It's experimental, emotional, and just powerful. S tier.
S tier, obviously. Kids See Ghosts is one of my best works. Cudi and I created something timeless, and anyone who's saying otherwise just doesn't get it. We were on a whole other level with that album. It's S tier, hands down.
Jesus is King, I respect the message, but I feel like Kanye went more for preaching than making a solid album. The gospel elements were bold, but I don't think they fully connected in the way his previous work did. It's definitely different, but I think it's a bit incomplete compared to his earlier albums. I'm putting this at C tier. It's got heart, but the execution doesn't hit the same.
E tier. This album was a joke. Kanye's trying to be a preacher instead of a musician. He had some good ideas, but it just didn't work as an album. The gospel theme didn't fit with his usual style. It felt forced. B tier.
B tier. It's clear Kanye's found something in his faith, and I respect that, but as an album, it doesn't really come together. The message is strong, but the music is a bit one-dimensional compared to what we're used to from him. B tier seems fair to me.
Jesus is King is S tier. I was speaking the truth, and if you didn't get it, that's not on me. I made an album about my faith, and that's something that no one else was doing at the time. It's art, and it's real. S tier.
Donda is an emotional journey. It's long, really long, but the moments of brilliance are there. Hurricane, Down to Chant, they hit hard, but some of the tracks just feel a little disjointed, and there are some long stretches where it's hard to stay engaged. It's a great album, but it's a little too bloated for me to put it in the top tier. I'm going with B tier.
D tier. This album is a mess. It's too long, too many features, and Kanye can't even decide what kind of album he's making. Is it gospel? Is it hip-hop? Is it hip-hop? It's all over the place, and none of it feels cohesive. B tier.
B tier. There's definitely some great stuff on here. Hurricane is incredible, and some of the tracks are powerful, but overall, it's just too much. Kanye's all over the place with this one. It's good, but not great. B tier seems fair to me.
Donda is S tier. It's personal, it's raw, it's me honoring my mother. If you don't see the vision, that's on you. This is one of my most emotional albums. S tier, no question.
Vultures 1, this is where things start getting weird for me. The production's experimental and I see the vision, but it's different. I'm putting it at C tier for now. Some of it's cool, but a lot of it feels like Kanye's just playing around with sounds without a clear direction.
D tier. I don't know what the hell Kanye was trying to do with this one. It's all over the place. The production doesn't make sense, the lyrics are all confusing, and half the album feels like it's just noise. B tier, and I'm being generous.
B tier. There are some interesting ideas here, but it's a little too experimental for my taste. Kanye is clearly trying something new, but I think he loses the plot a bit. There's a lot of potential, but it's not fully realized yet. B tier for me.
Vultures 1 is S tier. You all just don't get it. I'm ahead of the game. You're not supposed to understand this now, but in a few years, this album will be legendary. S tier.
Okay, Vultures 2, I'm still on the fence. It's definitely a step up from Vultures 1, but it's still very experimental. I think I'll put it at B tier. It's better, but it still feels like it's not quite all the way there yet.
D tier. Honestly, it feels like Kanye's just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's not polished and the production is all over the place. D tier, no question.
B tier. There's some real potential here, but it's still a bit disjointed. Kanye's trying to push the boundaries of music, and that's commendable, but I think he's still figuring it out. B tier seems right for now.
Vultures 2 is S tier. This is the future of music. It's raw, it's experimental, and it's unlike anything anyone else is doing. S tier, and you'll see. This album is going to be historic.